So even the information that's out there, it's very expensive. And yet I've talked to so many people in the industry who don't do a fourth as well as I do in this ranking and renting business. So this course is designed to fill in that gap. There's not enough information on the topic, and so I want to fill in the gap. And I will touch upon buying and selling domain names, but I won't teach it in depth. I think there's already a lot of information out there on that. Okay, and I didn't mention that when you guys have questions, you can feel free to type them into the question box. I will answer them at the end if that's okay with you. Okay. Now, in this course, I'll point you to a lot of optional tools and resources that will make your job easier, but most are absolutely not required. The only thing you really need to rank and then rent a website is you need a domain name, and then you need some hosting to build a website attached to that domain name. That's all you really need. So all these other tools that I will show you, talk to you about, and maybe even demonstrate how I use them, those are optional. Those are things that make it easier for you. I buy between 5 and 20 domain names almost every day, and a lot of those are to turn around and sell, but some are ideal for ranking and renting or for other uses like I may find one that's ideal for selling a specific affiliate product, so I will just point it to a product on Amazon, or I may find one that's ideal for building a directory around the topic, so I may build a directory site. So I buy all these domain names. I rank and rent some of them, but others I just sell or hang on to for a while. They're like an investment. Session 1 is largely going to be an overview. My goal, though, is to have you follow along with me and rank and then rent, have at least one site rented by the end of our 6 weeks together. So we're going to work fairly closely there to make that happen. I'm for the next 6 weeks, my focus is on making you successful at ranking and renting websites. And so I will make myself available a lot, but you will be my number one priority. I will still continue building my own rank and rent websites, but I have assistants who help me with some things too. So I am all yours for the next 6 weeks. It went backwards, okay. Now, my methods, I said here, are persistent, and that means, that I stick with something, and what I'm persistent at actually is when I seek to find a renter, I make a list of ideal renters, and then I approach them in 5, 10 different ways, and I may make a list of 5 to 10 different potential renters for any given domain name, and then I will contact them in numerous ways, and I will contact them repeatedly because I know that if their business is struggling and the biggest problem is not enough leads coming through the door, the brick and mortar doors, then I know if I can generate that traffic for them, then it's my job to let them know that I sincerely can help them. And so I am persistent, and I said aggressive. It's not aggressive. It's just that I'm not afraid of approaching people and pointing out to them that I can help them. And that's what it's all about. If you have a product or service that you can offer people and it really can make their lives better, then it's your job to make them aware of it, and sometimes that takes a little effort. We'll get into that a little more shortly. And I like this quote by Zig Ziglar where he says, timid salesmen have skinny kids. So I don't want you to be timid. I want you to be not afraid to reach out to potential renters over and over again if necessary, and we'll talk about that. Now, I do have several unannounced bonuses for you. The first one is I'm going to give you, each of you, a domain name that has been valued by the machine-generated valuation tool at GoDaddy for at least $1,000, not $100,000, $1,000. So I have a batch of domain names, and what I ask you to do is contact me via email, and I'll email you a list to choose from. And I want you to email me, if you would, at willie@williecrawford.org. That's willie@williecrawford.org. And the reason I want you to email me is because as each of you selects a domain name, then the list is going to change of what's available. So that's why I want you to email me rather than contact me via some automated method. And I will send you a list of domain names that, according to GoDaddy's algorithm, that domain name is worth at least $1,000, and I will give it to you. I will transfer ownership of it to you. Now, this list will contain domain names that are not just suitable for ranking and renting. They're suitable for other uses. I'm into numerous niches, like health niches especially, but wealth, anything to do with wealth, earning money, and a lot of others. And so, and then also the rank and rent. So this list will contain a variety of domain names. But if you will email me, as soon as practical is fine, then I will get back to you with a list of these domain names for you to choose from. And I say as soon as practical because you get to pick the best ones if you're faster, you know. So don't hesitate on that one. That's an unannounced bonus though. That's worth $1,000. I have a second unannounced bonus, which is a private Facebook group where you can talk to buy, sell, and trade with each other. This group is only for people who are going through my training now or who will go through it in the future, because after I finish the 6 weeks, I'm going to roll out a product which is recordings from these sessions. And so this group will only contain people who understand the things I'm teaching, basically. And I will automatically add you to it manually. So as long as I have your Facebook email or somehow connected with you on Facebook, I will add you to the group. If I don't add you to the group within 2 days, say by end of Saturday, feel free to email me, willie@williecrawford.org, and I will take care of it because I've somehow missed you, okay? This group is private and it's hidden from public view for now. And what that means is people, even if people searched on certain keywords, they would not find this group listed. It's not going to show up in Facebook right now. Later on, I may choose to keep it private, but make it discoverable. I don't know. I would have to look at that. But right now, it's private and it's hidden. So you can search for it. It exists. It's brand new, but you won't find it. So I'm going to add you to this group. My third unannounced bonus is, and I mentioned this earlier, I'm going to give each of you, offer each of you a 1.5 hour personal one-on-one consultation via Zoom, which is a webinar platform, to confirm that you're headed down the right path. You know, I don't want you jumping on this and running down the street full speed in the wrong direction. So I want to make sure you understand where we're headed, and I just want to see what you're thinking, okay? So to schedule that, I'll post the link to my calendar, and you can pencil yourself in on my calendar. I'll post that link inside the hidden Facebook group, which I'll add you to again by Saturday, and I'll also post it inside the membership area, which is going to be on the same domain as uh, the registration page was. It's going to be on rankrentretire.com, but that's where everything's going to be. That's where the membership site and all the files and everything will be. But we're making a few minor tweaks tonight. Okay, so I'll post my calendar. You pencil yourself in, and you'll have half an hour, ideally to discuss just the rank and rent stuff. So make some notes. Doing it by Zoom. Zoom lets us go face to face, so we can talk either way, but I can show you different things. I can give you control of the webinar platform. You can show me different things. We can show each other our faces, or we can choose not to. So, don't worry about how you look, if you haven't been to the beauty parlor lately or whatever, because you don't have to show your face. But I'm on Zoom every day. We'll use my Zoom account. In fact, I'll record the 1/2 hour one-on-one consultation and give you a copy of the recording in MP4, so video, and you can do whatever you want with it, but that means you don't have to take notes. So again, my calendar I'll post inside the hidden group by Saturday. I'm actually still deconflicting a few things with my team members because I have several people who have permission to pencil things in on my schedule, and what I do on my calendar is I block times that I am available, and the other times they can't schedule anything. So I want to make sure they know that I'm also scheduling you guys in there too, or you'll be using some of those time slots. Okay, now this training is all about choosing highly profitable niches where customers have a relatively high lifetime value. And that means niches where the renters, the people you're going to rent your website to, their customers make them a lot of money, either from one transaction or from repeat transactions. And an example of one transaction would be maybe a renter who's a lawyer or a cosmetic surgeon or somebody along that line who hopefully only needs to see their client once, or work with them once, and then that client pays them fairly high fees, or they earn fairly high commissions one way or another, and that's it. The other type of client that has a fairly high lifetime value for the customer would be someone like an exterminator who comes out twice a year to treat a customer's house. If that exterminator does a good job, he may have a customer for 10 years, and so over the lifetime of that customer dealing with that exterminator, he makes good money, and there's lots and lots and lots of niches like that out there. So those are the types of niches we want to focus on, where your renter is not making just a tiny bit of money from one customer and then he has to keep looking for more customers. He's making a lot from one customer. So to that renter, paying higher rental fees is no big deal. If you rent to someone who sells inexpensive products and they are constantly struggling to find customers, then they're not going to want to pay the fees that I charge. And I know people in the rank and rent business who charge under $50 a month for rent. And in fact, I was interviewed with someone who, that's his norm. But I go from typically around $100 a month to $2,000 a month, depending on the client. So I go for clients who, like say a mesothelioma lawyer. These are lawyers who take on people who are suffering from asbestos sickness, and there's all kinds of class action lawsuits against that. And if they win, there's a good chance that they're going to win a settlement that's maybe even in the millions of dollars, and they will take on a case on a contingency basis. So they don't mind paying, a decent rental fee. So, and those are the types of clients that you want. Um, so in the next week or so, prior to the next session, I'd like for you to choose one or maybe a few niches that you want to initially focus on. If you try to focus on too many different things, you're going to, well, if you focus on just a few, you really get to understand the industry first of all. So it makes it easier for you to find renters and talk to them in their language because you understand their struggles. So that's why I recommend that you focus on just a few niches. Uh, and there are literally thousands of niches, possibilities, all kinds of businesses out there. So one of the things I want you to do is to visit a website that's at superpages.com. And the URL's here, but I'll also post it inside the Facebook group. But it's at superpages.com. And what this is it's like an online Yellow Pages. I debated whether or not to actually take you over and show you the site, but it's fairly straightforward. And so I won't take you over and show you. I'll use this time for just summarizing a few things. Now, I focus on, I ask myself, so who are the high income earners who have clients and customers that they can afford to pay you a lot because they're collecting a lot from their clients and customers. And the top 25 highest paying occupations in the U.S. are mostly in the medical sector. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's going to just continue to grow by 14% by 2028. And so it's adding about 1.9 million new jobs. The problem is those people, like the highest paid profession that I saw was an anesthesiologist. Well, they don't run their own business. They work for hospitals or corporations. So that's not really something you can focus on for the most part. There are people in the medical field, podiatrists and plastic surgeons and people who treat certain ailments and even like a chiropractor, a doctor. So those people, you can target, but you don't really want to just pick, something like medicine. That's too difficult for most people. Not everybody, but for most people. And you want something you understand actually too. So, but I just want to show you that's where the big money is. An anesthesiologist, some of them make $300,000 a year. Their job's actually quite challenging. If you go in for surgery, the most difficult part of the surgery is the guy who's putting you under and then waking you back up because he's poisoning your system basically. So anesthesiologists earn their money. And I wasn't going anywhere in particular with that. Okay, now I pointed out the site Superpages that I'd like for you to check out. That's at the superpages.com. Probably could paste that in the chat one if I could find it. But it's easy to remember. It's superpages.com. Now, after you go to superpages.com, you need to register if you haven't already. And when you register, then you sign in and you're going to be able to see a listing of about every job or every niche business type in existence, at least in the U.S. And because I registered several years ago, I now sign in merely by going to superpages.com. And while at Superpages, I click on a link that shows the Facebook icon. And because my Facebook account is linked to my Superpages login, it logs me in, it recognizes me. So you can do that, or you can just sign in manually each time that you go over there. But it's an incredible resource. Once you log in, you're going to see a browse button. And all you do is click on the browse button. It'll show you a drop-down menu. And actually, I'll post this inside the Facebook group too, because it may be a bit for some of you to remember. But you'll see a drop-down menu, and all you're going to do is select popular categories. There's an option for option, and one of those options is popular categories. And this is going to bring up a page showing you practically every major category of business imaginable. I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's like every business that they've discovered in the U.S., I guess, they put it in a category and they list the business within their directory. So you're going to see this thing that shows all these different categories, and from that page, the popular categories page, you could just say, okay, I think I want to focus on this category or niche, or that category or niche, or you can pick one particular one and then drill down by clicking on the button that says more, and it lets you drill down deeper and deeper, and you'll notice you'll go, whoa, there's like 10,000 different potential niches I could target, and again, you want to ask yourself, so which ones have the money? It's like one of my mentors, Dan Kennedy, said, you focus on the people with the money. And if you're trying to sell to people with no money, one of two things is going to happen. One is they're either going to not buy, or two, if they buy, they're not going to be willing to pay you very much because they can't afford to pay you very much. So it's the same with your rental clients. You want the ones that are in niches that are making a lot of money from their customers so that they can afford to pay you higher rents because their customers can't afford to pay them higher rents. It's very logical, it's that simple. So you just click on the more link. And what I want you to do, though, is I want you to make a short list of categories that you think you want to target. And we'll use this list in session 2, which is next week, and perhaps in our phone consultation too, because I have a background in economics in both my undergraduate and my postgraduate training. I was a business major with a heavy emphasis on economics and statistics. So I am very good at economic analysis. And, when I was in college, my senior class project was I had to propose a business, a new business in a location, and I had to pick the location, and then I had to prove using census data that there was sufficient demand for that business. And I picked a town outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, that had a total population of 52 people, and I said they need to build a fitness center here. Because it's right on the edge of Raleigh, North Carolina, the North Carolina state capital. And I said these populations going to expand in that direction, and they're going to start building houses and all those things in that direction. And within 2 years, they had built a fitness center there because the town had grown that much. So I'm very good at looking at census data, analyzing it, and from that, deducing what's probably going to happen. And by the time we finish this, you'll be able to do some of that. It'll be intuitive. And so we'll selecting domain names. Okay. After we look at what niche you might want to target, then we're going to look at locations. Or I want you to look at locations. And that's because not all locations are created equal. I'm going to give you inside the membership area and inside the Facebook group a list of the 1,000 largest cities in the United States. And what I want you to do is we're gonna get into analyzing those lists, but I wrote that not all locations are created equal. I have a friend who I've known for 15 years probably, and he's built directories that offer listings to businesses in a number of different cities. And I looked at what he was doing and I said, "You're undercharging for what you're doing." And he wouldn't budge. I kept telling him, "You need to quadruple your prices or whatever." But then when I finally really looked at the locations that he was focused on locations where the people really had no money. He built one for serving a city where it's like 95% rural, and most of the people earn under $30,000 a year, and they just can't afford to. The average person can't afford to pay more for goods, and so the cost of living is low there, but they can't afford to pay more for services, which means the people providing the services can't pay him a lot for listings in his directory. And so I don't want you targeting locations where potential renters for your sites can't pay you what you want. You know, if you're happy with 20 to 50 bucks a month rent, that's fine. But I'm happier with 100 to 1,000 bucks a month. You know, and my median rent right now is probably $300 a month. But that's for a website that I built. I build once, I rank it, and then I sit back and I collect the rent. And every now and then I may need to do something minor to maybe add another page to a blog or something like that, or an article, and that grabs Google's attention again, and the page is right back up there on the first page of Google. So I want you to focus on areas where people are earning decent incomes. And I want you to also note that you do not need to and probably should not focus on just businesses in your area. We're talking the internet. We're talking you contacting people via methods where it's not really expensive and even free at times, like email. So it doesn't matter where they're at. And in fact, this will work in practically, you could be in another country and you could target U.S. businesses, which is what this model is sort of based on. It's U.S., Canada, Australia, countries with similar economies. But you could be in any country in the world and use this system. Now, the challenge you might face is in collecting the payment, because certain payment processors like PayPal aren't available in all countries, and so you need to look at that. But this system will work in any country, okay? And again, I'm going to provide you with a list of the 1,000 largest cities in the U.S. Now, the thing about this list is if you talk, New York City is like the largest city in the country, but you can't really target New York City. It's not realistic to target New York City. Instead, you want to target boroughs of New York City. So my list does conclude New York City, but it also includes the boroughs. What are they? Long Island, Staten Island, and all those. There's like a bunch of boroughs around there because an exterminator, for example, on Long Island is not going to go to Queens or Manhattan to service somebody, or it shouldn't, because its customers should all come from a relatively close geographic area. And I mention exterminators because that is one of those businesses where if you have a serious roach or rat or termite problem, you're going to want the exterminator to come out frequently. And so while you may not, your client, if he's an exterminator, may not collect a lot on each visit, but over time he's going to collect quite a bit because problems like roaches and rats don't go away really. And New York and DC and Chicago and a few other places have huge rat problems. Okay, so what I would like for you to do, another thing to do in the coming week, is to visit city-data.com And I think what city-data does is they pull in information from census statistics because what they have is demographics on certain, on practically every city in America. And so you enter a city name, you just go to city-data.com, you enter a city name. The first thing it will do is it will show you how many cities there are in America with that name. For example, Fayetteville, named after General Lafayette, who was uh, a Revolutionary War hero, or sort of. Uh, there's a bunch of Fayettevilles in the United States. Like I know Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. So city-data is going to first of all show you how many different cities there are and the populations of those cities. So what I get a good feeling when I type in the name of a city and there's like 10 of them, 10 different cities that all have the same name, because that tells me that, you know, if I'm targeting Fayetteville Transmission Service, that tells me I can go to the largest Fayetteville first and find, you know, 5 or 10 different businesses and contact them. But if I need to, I could fall back to another smaller Fayetteville, you know, and it's that way with a lot of cities. So city-data is a site that you're going to find very useful. And what I want you to do is to do an economic analysis of certain cities. As we get into this, you're going to be coming up with domain names, and you're going to say, yeah, I think that's a great domain name, and I like city, a domain name that contains a city plus a niche, and it's a .com, and you know, so most search engines, if you were looking for a pizza parlor, which isn't a good place to target because they have such a low profit off of each pizza. They should be, and they often can even give them away. So, but if you were looking for a pizzeria and you just typed into most browsers pizzeria, most browsers default to the local location, and they default because they can tell where you're at, and they also default to .com. So you need to target .com, but what am I getting at with that? Oh, you need to study the demographics of the city. City-data, if you type in any city name, Chicago, it's going to it'll tell you the population, it'll tell you the average age, it'll tell you the average income, it'll tell you the average, the median price of housing, the cost of renting a house. It'll tell you how many houses and apartments and condos there are in each of the price ranges. It'll tell you the average educational level of the citizens. It'll tell you the ethnicity. It'll tell you the poverty level. It'll tell you the crime rate. It'll tell you whether the city is growing or shrinking. And then with the crime rate, it even breaks it down by types of crime. So what that does is it lets you, when you're thinking about targeting a city plus a niche, it lets you look at it and say, do I really want to target this city? You know, they've got a really high murder rate, and people are really poor, and the city's not even growing, it's shrinking. And so you don't want to focus on something like that. Instead, you want to focus on some place that's thriving. I do, and that has a very low crime rate, that people are moving into, that housing prices are increasing, you know, that the place is growing. Yeah. So city-data will let you evaluate that. Now, as we look at the different types of domain names that you can purchase and how you purchase them, how you locate them, some of this is not necessarily going to apply, but because one of the methods I'll teach you requires that you make a decision very fast about whether or not you want a certain domain name. Others, you're going to run city names and bounce those against occupations, and you're going to get a list of those, and then you're going to drop that into a web page that will tell you which ones of those are available. And sometimes it'll tell you there's hundreds of those available, and they'll give you hundreds of available combinations. And so now you've got time to look at each one and say, well, do I want this particular domain name? Do I want to go for it and focus on that? And that's where knowing the demographics of an area makes a huge difference to me, because again, I don't want to focus on some area that has a really high crime rate and is impoverished and it's shrinking in size and half the houses in the city are abandoned. That's not the market I go after. And I mean, if you want to, if you're social conscious, makes you want to do something like that, then have at it. But that's not the way we make a lot of money, which is what I'm not about the money. I'm about what you can do with the money. Okay, so I think you understand what I mean there. Okay, again, remember that the best domain names for renting in many cases are going to be city plus niche plus .com. People just automatically think .com. .coms are easier to sell. They're easier to rent. A lot of software defaults to the .com if you don't enter an extension. A lot of search engines do. So during this first session, we're looking at just one way to come up with the pieces for a list of potential domain names. Okay. In session 2, we're going to look at a super easy way to generate hundreds, even thousands of such domain names. And again, check for their availability in mere minutes. Now, one of the things that's happening in our world is hard to ignore is COVID-19, coronavirus, and businesses shutting down. So the world is changing, and there are industries that hit so hard, businesses hit so hard that they will not come back. The world is just changing, and so certain people have to find jobs in different industries. Certain businesses, including businesses that major pension funds were invested in and things, they're not going to recover. So you need to consider that. At the same time, you offering websites for rent, what you're really offering is lead generation. You're putting them in front of their ideal customer in the search engines. And so you're going to help you can help some businesses come back faster than they would otherwise and stronger than they would otherwise. So you are making a real difference in the world with this service, because right now there are lots of business owners just scratching their head saying, how am I going to pull out of this nosedive? And you can help them pull out the nosedive, and you can help them to, once they get back on their feet, help their employees get back on their feet. So you're doing a real service now. So the question becomes, what's next after you identify proven, highly profitable niches, using our economic analysis and common sense and looking at the location and how much the lifetime value of their customers is, and all those things. So we're going to come up with a list of domain names working together that you are going to target. And again, I encourage you to at first limit the number of different niches that you target. It just makes it easier. I mean, there's nothing to stop you from saying, well, I'm going to make a list of 100 top niches and target, all of those, and target, 100 different cities or whatever. You can do that, but you're going to sink a lot of money into domain names, and you're taking risks that you don't need to take. You want to start out slow until you get a feel for it, till it becomes intuitive. And for me, it has become intuitive. After you come up with that list, then you're going to be setting up websites. And I teach using templates, and I'll show you where and how to get templates. And although some of the templates I use are WordPress based, which is very easy to set up, and others are intuitive, but they're not WordPress. And sometimes you can very easily rank a site and then just redirect it to your renter's main site. So I'll show you how to do that, where once the site is ranked in the search engine, instead of even having the traffic go through your site, it's directed directly to your client's main site. And so many clients want that. And the other alternative is to pull the traffic to your site that you've rented to your client, and then from there send that traffic via various mechanisms to the client. One mechanism being a phone number. So you have a specific phone number that people call to request more information or whatever, and when they call that phone number, it goes to your client's main office or whatever, and they know from the phone number it's coming from that that lead was generated by you. So they know that they're paying for traffic from you, and it's much more cost effective than like Google AdWords or something like that. I mean, it's like 1/10 the price if you do it properly. So we're going to look at that, and I'll teach you how to do that. And if you feel too busy to even set up these websites, which again are very easy, very intuitive, then I'll show you how to outsource it, and I'll happily provide you with checklists that you can give to virtual assistants, and they can do it for you. And in fact, I don't do everything within my business. There's certain things that repetitive tasks that I just have someone else do that could do it for a fraction, but the charge is pennies to do it, so that's something to keep in mind. And again, I have checklists that I'll happily provide to your virtual assistants, or to you to provide to your virtual assistants. After you build the site, then you need to rank the site, and that's fairly easy when you do things as I'll show you. Ranking is really about getting Google to sit up and pay attention to you, and that can be as simple as links from authority sites, links from properties that Google is in bed with, things like that. So, it's like if you post something on YouTube and you link to your main site, Google is associated with YouTube. They're the same company, and so Google's going to quickly spider that link, the video description and all those things, and keywords and title, and it's instantly in Google's database. So it's very easy to get the attention of Google, and it's just a matter of maybe doing a little more than a competitor who's also maybe after that keyword. But ranking the site is fairly easy. And then you're going to identify your ideal clients, and these are business owners who desperately need your help. So I'll walk you through that process. And then you're going to contact and follow up with your ideal client. And this is perhaps the hardest part, because what you're doing is you're breaking through all the noise and the clutter and getting past the gatekeeper. My friend Marlon Sanders describes that as the battle for attention. It's like many of us are bombarded by thousands, and I mean literally thousands of advertisements every day, and so we block most of it out, and we have to, or we go crazy. And business owners are bombarded by people, by the same advertising, and some days hundreds or dozens of people reaching out to them saying, let me help you. I can get you on the first page of Google, I can get you in Google Places and all those things. And these business owners, many of them have had bad experiences
with people who didn't deliver on the results. And that's what it's really all about. If you can deliver results, and then the sales easy. So we're going to look at different ways of contacting these people, and we'll look at all the tools I have listed here, like most of your decision makers and high earners are on LinkedIn, for example. A lot of them have Facebook pages. Uh, one of the things that I do is I'm a member of a barter exchange, so I have an unfair advantage there. The barter exchange is comprised of 25,000 business owners across the U.S. and Canada. And what I do is it's a barter exchange, so you offer something for barter credits, and you turn around and spend those barter credits on whatever. Uh, so I use that to get my foot in the door, and then once I've established a relationship with a specific business owner, then I offer them other goods and services for cash prices. And that gets me in front of quite literally 25,000 people, business owners, and because when I post an offering on the barter exchange, it's actually emailed out and it's listed in a huge directory, searchable database, and so people can find me. And then within that database, I mentioned lead generation services and things like that. So that's how I do that. I mentioned civic organizations here. I'm a trained platform speaker, but I was taught a long time ago by my friend Elsom Eldridge, who wrote a book called How to Become the Obvious Expert. He wrote that by volunteering to speak at like the Kiwanis or one of those other organizations that business members go to in your city, that you can just by volunteering to speak during one of their business meetings or lunches or breakfasts or whatever, you're suddenly in front of a room of a lot of the business owners in your town, and they listen to you, and if you have a clue what you're talking about, you become their expert, and they trust you, and it's very easy to then sell them all kinds of products and services. And I'll show you a few other little known resources that are more or less online directories of businesses and business owners. And these directories, some of them give you the name, the address, the phone number, all kinds of information about them, the size of the company, and all those things. And so that information is readily available. We'll look at contacting these people and following up with them. And again, because this is, to me, for most people, the hardest part of this entire rank and rent business. We'll probably spend two different sessions on that topic, and we'll cover everything as much as we need to. What I'm doing is I will make myself available to you between sessions, and so if you have questions, you can ask me questions between sessions, especially via the Facebook group, and I'll answer them. But I don't want you to get ahead, so I only want you to ask questions about the things that we've already covered. Okay, and I'll share with you scripts that I use when I'm approaching business owners, but what it really is just one business person talking to another business person. You speak to them in their language and let them know you understand their problems, and you listen to them. And when you reach out to a business owner and you say, I have this website that's ideal for your business, would you be interested in renting it? Some will come back and say, how much? And others will say, not respond at all. And others will say, well, do you want to sell the site? And you decide how you're going to answer those questions. We'll get into all that as we delve deeper into this topic. you do need to follow up with potential tenants, though, you know, because a lot of them, you'll send an email to them and they won't respond. And because they maybe it hit a filter, maybe they didn't see the email, maybe they intended to respond, but they had all kinds of things going wrong in their business that day, and they had to put out fires or even things in their personal lives. And so you have to follow up with them, being persistent, but not a pest. And if you're trying to help them, if you're really trying to help them, if you really care about them, then they sort of sense that, and they don't mind, you following up with them. You have a legitimate reason to follow up with them. So we'll go into that some. Then we'll look at pricing. I mentioned not all businesses can afford to pay the same amount. So you sort of feel them out at times and see what they can afford to pay. A small mom and pop bakery can't pay the same as a cosmetic surgeon, for each client. So you get a feel for that, and then you decide what you're going to charge. And then we'll look at getting paid. You ideally want to set up where once they agree to rent the site, they pay you automatically month after month after month, or you could even set it maybe on a quarterly or annual basis. And I use PayPal a lot, but I also have access to Stripe and merchant account, and I can set things up with the direct deposit. And there's a lot of other alternatives, having them mail a check to you or whatever, but I don't get into that. So we'll look at you getting paid automatically, because what you want to do is have a portfolio of sites that you're renting out, and the money is just coming in month after month after month, but you have not having to do anything after you rent the site out. And what a lot of business owners understand is that if they don't renew in a given month, if that site's ranked high in Google for some term like cosmetic dentist, or destined cosmetic dentist, I live near Destin, Florida, they know that if they don't renew or stay with you, that you can just go to their nearest competitor and offer them the site, and somebody's going to take the site. So they once they start seeing results, and again, I'll go back to that over and over again. You have to be able to deliver the results. But if you're ranked number one on Google for a given term, and people are searching for that term, then it's a no-brainer for them to keep paying you rent, as long as you're sending them new customers. And for certain businesses where they make a lot of money off each sale, they don't need a lot of customers each month. So it's not very hard, but we'll get into that. And you actually need to sort of set the tenant's expectations, but again, and meet those expectations. And that comes again to delivering on what they expect from you. And then we'll look at selling back end products and services. If you're delivering new clients or customers to a business regularly, then after a while, you can go to them and say, okay, you're running a website and that's bringing you leads, but you need this or that, I don't know, a mobile app, or you need another website, or you need whatever. And they are more open to buying from you. So as you build up your clientele, it's natural for them to actually ask you, so how can I improve my business even more? And that's where you can look at, okay, what else can I offer them? And so you may not want to do that, because if you're like me, I'm looking at being semi-retired, so I don't want to do a lot of work. But if it's something you can outsource, and all you do is collect the job and pass it along to someone else for a percentage commission. Like, I have one friend who does website security scans, and so it's easy for me to say to someone, your website looks vulnerable to me. Why don't you use my friend here to scan it? And that person charges about $2,000 to do a very thorough scan, looking for holes in the database or openings in the databases and things like that, vulnerabilities. And so, and that person will happily pay me, a percentage for every referral. So when you're looking at back-end products and services, it doesn't have to be something that's going to add extra work for you. It could be, a lot of little things like that that will add up over time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions because we've gone over an hour. And what I'll ask is that you try to keep your questions on the things we've covered today, and because a lot of those things I already have, a lot of things I plan on covering in future lessons, and so I don't want to get too far ahead. I want to take things in a logical fashion so that you can follow along and it makes sense and it's easy to do. And you are free to ask questions within the Facebook group at any time, and I'll answer them. But again, I ask you, what did I do? I'll ask you to, not try to get too far ahead. So there we go. I clicked the wrong button and closed my question window, basically. So do any of you have any questions at this point? I will have the the video ready and uploaded to the membership area tomorrow sometime, and I'll send an email out to that effect. Yeah, I do see some questions coming in. Let me, if I can expand this window. Okay, Ken asked, where do I host my sites? I host my sites on my own dedicated servers, but I get a dedicated server that's maintained. I have one that's maintained and everything by a membership site that I'm in called the Unselfish Marketer. I can host up to 1,000 sites for $2 each, and that's a one-time cost for lifetime hosting. So I'll post a video inside the group that explains exactly how I do that. But that's where I host many of my sites. I host 1,000 sites there, or I can host up to 1,000 sites there. Kevin asked, do we need to have a certain domain registrar for the domain transfer? You don't have to have a certain domain registrar, but I can, which makes the rules for all registrars, requires that when you register a domain name at a registrar, that you not transfer it away from that registrar for 60 days. So if you, to register it and rent it, it doesn't matter what registrar you use. To register it, and if you think you might want to sell it eventually or soon, then you need to get your customer at the same registrar. And I use name silo. That's what I use. I'll post a link to that inside the Facebook group too. I'll get you all added to that. That's where I buy my domains, George. I pay $8.99 for each one, and if you buy, I think it's 50 or more at a time, which I don't encourage you to do, then you get a slight discount, but it's not, to me, it's not worth the headache. Well, I don't want to lock that many down. So, but I use Name Silo, and Jill says she loves Name Silo. But that's where I buy my domain names, and in fact, I'll share with you later that I often buy domain names that are recently dropped, which means every day 100,000 domain names that were not renewed roughly 100,000 domain names that were not renewed by their previous owner or made available by the registrars to the public. And there's places you can go to find the entire list, but to sift through a list of 100,000 names is sort of a pain in the butt. So I work there on, I work from a short list compiled by my mentor, Gene Pimentel. But you can use any domain registrar you want. Again, I use name silo, and I see a lot of you folks are using that. Steve, you will have access to the member area by Saturday at the latest, hopefully tomorrow, and it will have lots of stuff. Well, actually, it won't have anything but the first this session, and it'll have the video and the audio, but the transcript will probably still not be available till maybe Saturday or Sunday. But I'll also add some supplemental material in there, checklists, things like that. Things that I think will help you out. In the Facebook group, the same thing. Tom, I do try to keep it simple because I'm a simple person. Cleveland, to access the Facebook group, I'm going to automatically add everyone that I have on my list to the Facebook group. If I have your contact information, if I have your Facebook email address, that's the easiest way to add you to the group, but I will do that personally right now. Jill asked about contracts. You could have a memorandum of understanding or some type of contract, but most people who rank and rent websites don't use contracts. And you don't need them. They appear threatening to some of your clients, and renters. And if you target the right domain name, which is city plus niche, you will have enough alternative clients that if your client doesn't renew, you can just turn around and rent the site to someone else. So you don't really need contracts. Larry asked, is there a sweet spot for population of cities? No, I don't like cities with less than probably 50,000 people, usually. But then again, like I mentioned, with the huge cities like New York, you've got it divided into boroughs. Chicago, you've got it divided into, I forget what they're called, but the different subdivisions. And if you target Chicago, then you don't target all of Chicago because it's too big. You target specific portions of Chicago, specific subdivisions around Chicago, because that's how businesses define their geographic area. I'm trying to see if I missed any. Kathy asked, can she get copies of the slides? And can I provide them before each class? Yeah, I don't see why not. Because it'll save. It's like giving you a handout, basically. So I will post a link in the Facebook group to these, as well as post these slides inside the membership area. I just may need to be reminded. I'm trying to see what I missed. Jill asked, which types of businesses aren't making money or aren't good due to the pandemic? Your guess is actually as good as mine. I read today that Disney is forecast or has lost $1.6 billion due to this pandemic. They depend upon, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people showing up every day, and they're one of the most successful businesses in America, and yet uh, the world changed overnight for them, you know. So what business types are not making right now? It's places where people congregate. It's nightclubs and restaurants and places like that. And there's huge, very successful restaurants that one day they're the most popular business in the city, or restaurant in the city, and they're making tens of thousands of dollars a day in profits, and the next day they're not making anything, you know. So that's a little difficult to, you have to sort of just look at it. John said there's a Springfield in almost every state in the U.S. So if you targeted Springfield, whatever, you know, Springfield carpet cleaning, which is not really a great one, but at the same time, there's businesses. My brother runs a carpet cleaning business, and he goes back to certain clients 2 to 3 times a year and cleans their offices or their homes or whatever. So it's one of those businesses that he has as much business as he can keep up with. And I'm not seeing any more questions. And William wrote, just like the military, just listen and you will learn. But just like the military also, their model is they teach you to do something, they have you do it under the watchful eyes of an instructor, and that instructor corrects you and even gives you a test, and then you know how to do it. But you can't just watch and listen. You've got to actually do it too, and that's my model. I mean, I'm like, why go through the training if you're not going to actually do it? And once you do it, you become comfortable with it. Larry's asking if there's a resource that shows us average monthly income per business. I'm sure there is. I just don't know exactly where it is. I can track that down because I'm very good at finding data. Paul, it's my pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Kathy asked, how long will it take for us to rank a site? Some sites rank in as little as a week, 10 days. Others, it takes longer. It depends on how much competition there is. But the thing is, when you're targeting local keywords, you're actually facing very little savvy competition. Typically, your average local business often names, if Joe has a transmission shop, he's more likely to name it Joe's Transmission than Atlanta Transmission. And so when somebody goes to the search engine and they're having problems with the transmission, they type in Atlanta Transmission or just transmission, and it'll default to Atlanta. If they're in Atlanta, the search engine can determine based on their IP address where they're at. So your average business person doesn't know enough about SEO to be very competitive. So it's fairly easy to rank for certain keywords because the people there don't know what they're doing. Dave, yes, I will send you the URL for a couple. And Kimberly says, can I wait until I learn more to have the one-on-one? Yes, we can have the one-on-one anytime you want. It's just that, yeah, that's fine. I just don't want you doing too many things if you're running in the wrong direction. So that's the biggest purpose of the one-on-one, is just to make sure that we're all on the same sheet of music. So you guys have sort of your tasking, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for now, and I will get an email out to you letting you know that the membership site is ready for you, and I will get you signed up, registered for the Facebook group as soon as practical. I'm personally handling that because I want to not have people try to sneak in somehow. So I cross-check a lot of things. And with that, I will see you all next Thursday at the same time. I thank you very much, and enjoy your evening. Stay safe out there. Okay, I see a couple of other messages coming in. Dave, I shut off my email my email and Facebook prior to the webinar because those draw a lot of resources, and they also tend to cause pop-ups. And so right in the middle of it, you'll watch a lot of presentations, and right in the middle of the presentation, Skype or Facebook Messenger or something like that will pop up a message, and it sort of messes up the recordings, and it draws resources, so it slows down the computer that's tied into the webinar platform. So that's why I shut things down before I start. Okay, so I will see all you guys next week, and I will follow up with all of the questions and everything else. I should have a record of the chat log actually, so I can go through and read all those too. I've been running since about 5 this morning, so I'll probably take a short break before I do anything else. But tomorrow and the rest of the weekend actually are very light intentionally. It's just that today was a day of doing a lot of things. And so I thank you again, and I'll be in touch with you. Take care.